latest YouGov poll indicates that the Burnham bounce is starting to drop as Reform UK has reclaimed its lead over Labour.
Well, last week, Prime Minister Andy Burnham ended Reform UK's long-standing dominance in the polls, which marked the first time the party fell to second place in the past 16 months.
So, do the recent fluctuations suggest Burnham's popularity is starting to flatline?
Well, let's speak now to Julian Galley, Head of Research at Merlin Strategy, who joins us now. Very good morning to you, Julian. It looks like this Burnham bounce has been very brief.
Yeah, so we see in the YouGov poll that Reform have taken its lead. In other polls, Labour keeps a very small...
Well, there you go. This is GB News Originals. I'm Emily Carver. Please do give this video a like and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. And do leave a comment. Let me know what you think.
In average polling, around 27%. We see both Reform and Labour very close to each other. So there has been a slight bounce for Labour, but that bounce has sort of taken them up to where Reform are and not beyond by much.
So where does this leave really the three main parties in terms of strategy? Because if there is, everyone's calling for an election pretty much, apart from the Tories, and if there was one today, what are we looking at? A hung parliament?
Yeah, so it's quite difficult to tell, but what the Labour strategy would be is actually quite similar to 2024, where their vote share might not be incredibly high, but what they will be looking for is an efficient vote spread across the country. So if, for example, in London, their vote share isn't as high as it has been in previous years, under the Corbyn years, for example, because the Greens are picking up votes and they've gone from winning sort of 70% in, the sort of Islingtons, North Londons, places like Keir Starmer's constituency, and they've gone from winning 70% to maybe 45, 50%, they'll still win the seat. But if that means they lose votes in London but win more votes elsewhere in marginal seats, whereas the right is split between Reform and Labour, between Reform and the Conservatives, I should say, Labour would fancy their chances at sort of winning with a split right where they get more seats under a low vote share.
Well, there has been talk this week, hasn't there, about a Reform Restore Pact. What difference would that make to Reform's lead?
Yeah, so we see across different polls, some pollsters prompt for Reform, some do not. But we see that Restore maybe on between 2 to 4% of the vote share. So it could have an impact on Reform, especially in very marginal seats. But overall, what the bigger problem is that Reform are on 24, 25%, Conservatives on about 20%. And we see that the Conservative ceiling is perhaps not as high as the Reform ceiling, but the Conservative floor is actually a lot higher than people first predicted maybe a couple of years ago. So it's very unlikely that the Conservatives will drop down enough to have a clear pathway for Reform in a lot of seats.
What's interesting with this is, and why I guess it's difficult for pollsters, is that there's a big difference between what people say in a poll to what they finally plump for when they're stood at the ballot box. Can you factor that in any way, shape or form?
Yeah, so we have different methods to see what maybe people might be considering on a scale of 1 to 10, how certain they are to vote a certain way, how certain they are to vote at all, because a lot of people might say that they're going to vote for one party, but then on the day they just can't really be bothered and they stay at home. So we have different methods to factor all of that in. And one of the big ones is tactical voting. So we've seen in Manchester, in Makerfield, the Manchester mayoral election, that the Conservative vote has actually dropped down quite a bit. And that's partly because a lot of Conservatives are voting with Reform against Labour, but also we've seen quite a few Conservatives voting against Reform and supporting Labour because they would prefer a Labour government or a Labour mayor, a Labour MP to a Reform MP. And that's quite a big issue for Reform, and it's a big issue in terms of determining where the next election will go.
OK, Julian Galley, really good to get your analysis.
Andy Burnham's gone on holiday after just 2 weeks in the job. So, is that too soon? And who's in charge? The Prime Minister took over from Keir Starmer on July the 20th, and Number 10's confirmed he went on holiday today. They won't say where he's gone, other than he is abroad. Number 10 insists he's still in charge, is in direct contact with officials, and that government will function normally. In his absence as First Secretary of State, Louise Haigh is the most senior minister. Reform UK MP Lee Anderson said Burnham is not serious about leading if he's bunked off on a jolly after just 2 weeks. Do you think it's okay for the Prime Minister to be catching rays after just 15 days?
If you could ask Andy Burnham for one thing as the new Prime Minister, what would you ask?
Ooh, how are you going to improve the country because it's in the right state?
Good point. Yourself?
I'm not getting involved.
Worst person to ask. I don't like him.
Tell me why.
Because he's not very good. I won't say what I really feel because it wouldn't be very nice.
But if you could ask for one thing, if he could deliver on one thing, what would you hope it would be?
That's the only problem. I don't think he can deliver on anything. He's never done it in all the time he's been here. So I don't see what he can deliver on. But if he was going to deliver on anything, the first thing I think he should do is sort out the country's problems with the NHS and with the DWP, because too many people, including myself, are suffering because of it.
I think something to do with young people, I think he said was going to be a priority, improving mental health services. So I think that would be one of my top priorities.
The Prime Minister who vanished. Why Andy Burnham went on holiday just 14 days into the job, and what it reveals about the state of Britain. 14 days. That is how long Andy Burnham lasted in Downing Street before he packed a suitcase and disappeared. No press conference, no farewell wave from the famous Black Door, just a quiet word from Number 10 that the Prime Minister would be taking some time away with his family. 2 weeks. Not 2 months, not 2 years. 2 weeks. And already the man running the country has clocked off. Stick with me, because by the end of this you will understand exactly why this matters far more than a simple beach holiday, and what it tells us about who is really steering the ship, while the captain is sipping something cold by a pool somewhere nobody in Whitehall is willing to name.
Before we go any further, if you are new here, this channel is Britain Underneath, and what we do is pull back the curtain on the stories the mainstream outlets skim past. No spin, no soft soap, just the facts and the sharp edges that come with them. If that sounds like your kind of thing, hit subscribe now, because we are about to dive properly into this one, and you will not want to miss what comes next. So let's get into it. Number 10 confirmed that the Prime Minister would be stepping back from his day-to-day duties for a while, spending time with his family, but insisted he would remain contactable and, crucially, still technically in charge. Technically. That word is doing an awful lot of heavy lifting in that sentence, and we will come back to it. While he is away, Louise Haigh has been handed the reins of the Cabinet Office, along with the grand title of First Secretary of State. On paper, that makes her the most senior figure in government for the duration of the Prime Minister's absence. It is the kind of title that sounds impressive in a press release, and rather less impressive when you realise what it actually means in practice. Because a Cabinet Office source was quick, almost nervously quick, to clarify that this does not mean Haigh is actually running the country. No, apparently the Prime Minister will be keeping in close touch with officials the entire time. So which is it? Is she in charge, or is he? Number 10 seems to want it both ways, and that ambiguity alone should tell you something about how confident this government is in its own chain of command. Downing Street would not confirm how long the Prime Minister and his family would be away, nor would they say where they were going. A statement from a spokesman insisted that government business continues as normal, with the Prime Minister staying in contact with officials, holding meetings, and receiving regular updates. Reassuring words, perhaps, But words are cheap when the person meant to be leading the country is unreachable by the public and unaccountable to Parliament, which, let's not forget, is not currently sitting either. Now, before we go further, a quick reminder. This channel exists because of viewers like you choosing to hit that subscribe button. It genuinely helps this kind of reporting reach more people who are tired of the usual watered-down coverage. So if you have not already, go ahead and subscribe to Britain Underneath, and let's keep digging. Naturally, the criticism did not take long to arrive. Lee Anderson, chairman of Reform UK, was among the loudest voices, accusing the Prime Minister of abandoning his post barely a fortnight into the job. His argument was blunt. A leader who has already walked back a string of promises and presided over thousands of people entering the country illegally has no business heading off on.
Whether or not you agree with Anderson's politics, and plenty of you will not, the optics here are difficult to defend. 2 weeks is not a long time to build trust, and trust, once dented this early, tends to follow a leader for the rest of their term. Now, in fairness, and we like to be fair on this channel, Prime Ministers taking a break in August is nothing new. Parliament rises for summer recess, MPs scatter back to their constituencies or their sun loungers, and Downing Street traditionally goes a little quieter until business resumes in early September, only for a second recess to follow shortly after for party conference season. So, on the surface, this is simply tradition. But context matters, and the context here is a Prime Minister barely 2 weeks into office, still finding his feet, still being tested by his own party and by the public, choosing this exact moment to step away. History offers a useful comparison. When Sir Keir Starmer became Prime Minister back in the summer of 2024, he too tried to take a holiday, roughly 5 weeks into the job, only to have those plans torn up when riots erupted across the country following the Southport killings. He eventually got his break, but not until the new year, and even that trip was interrupted, this time by urgent talks on Ukraine involving Donald Trump. The pattern here is clear. Being Prime Minister of this country in this era does not really allow for rest. Crises do not check the calendar before they strike. So the real question hanging over Burnham's holiday is not whether he deserves a break. Everybody does. It is whether the country can afford for him to be unreachable if something goes wrong while he is away.
And the public reaction has been exactly as sharp as you would expect. Some viewers online have pointed out the obvious irony of a Prime Minister vanishing without any confirmation of his destination, joking that even a discreet departure through a quieter airport or a military airfield would eventually give the game away. Others have been far less forgiving, describing the timing as tone-deaf given the state of the economy, arguing that a leader with no clear plan for the country's future has no business relaxing abroad while people struggle at home. There is also a more cynical read doing the rounds, that this is simply how the political class operates now. Themselves first, the country a distant second. But there has been pushback too. Plenty of people have pointed out that everybody, including a Prime Minister, is entitled to a family holiday, particularly one likely booked long before he ever took office, timed around school holidays like millions of other British families. One commenter put it rather gently, suggesting this might be his last real chance for family time in years, and that he will need to be fully recharged for what is coming. Fair point, arguably. But fair or not, perception in politics is often the whole game, and right now, the perception is a Prime Minister who has barely started and already stepped back. So where does that leave us? A Prime Minister on a break he will not name the location of, a First Secretary of State with a grand title and apparently no real authority, A cabinet office desperately trying to have it both ways, insisting nobody is truly in charge except the man who is, for now, unreachable. It is a small story on the surface, a holiday, nothing more. But scratch beneath it and you find the same old questions about power, accountability, and who is really pulling the strings in Westminster while the cameras are pointed elsewhere.
That is exactly the kind of thing we dig into here. If you have made it this far, take a breath, because we have more of these stories coming, and you will want to be here for them. Stay informed, stay sharp, and if this channel has earned a little of your time today, do us a favour and subscribe to Britain Underneath before you go. It costs nothing. It takes 2 seconds, and it genuinely keeps this kind of reporting alive. We will see you in the next one.